Adama knew two things for a certain. 1. Kindness didn't pay rent. 2. People only remembered your good heart when you were dead. And yet, she couldn't stop giving. She wasn't just known for her good heart. Adama was one of the best food sellers at that junction. She knew her onions, literally and otherwise. Her egusi soup would fill the entire junction with aroma, thick and seasoned like it came from the gods. Her porridge beans melted on the tongue, and even her rice and stew carried a scent that made Okada men pack without shame. The sun hadn't even broken the Abuja sky when she lit a coal stove outside her store, God's Time Kitchen, tucked beside the Coatic Street Junction in Maitama. By 6 a.m., she would already fed 2 keke drivers, a pregnant shoe seller, and one hungry madman who shouted gospel verses between every swallow. She charged when she could, but when she saw hunger in someone's eyes, the kind that scraped pride down to its bones, she let them eat anyway. Zainab, her 10-year-old daughter, sat on a bench, tired-eyed and silent, peeling boiled eggs. "Mama, where rice money go come from today?" Adama looked up, sweat streaking her forehead, but not pausing in her staring. "E go come from heaven or somewhere near am. Abi from the ghost of generosity," Zainab muttered. Adama laughed. "No worry, your mama dey owe angels." Everyone in the junction called her Anima Shanu, not with honor but as mockery, the woman who has and gives even if it kills her. And lately, it was killing her. Her debts to the Okada Union had doubled. Her landlord wanted to throw her out. She hadn't eaten meat or proper standard food in 2 months, but still, every time someone walked by with eyes too hollow or limbs too crooked, her heart overruled her pockets. Like Uncle One Leg, he was the cripple who sat under the mango tree near the traffic light. Most thought he was mad. He spoke to himself in English, so fluent he scared people. Some days he quoted Shakespeare, other days he cursed in French. Every day around 3 p.m., he would hobble slowly down the pavement, dragging his tired limbs and balancing his weight on a wooden crutch. He always sat beneath the same mango tree, close enough to Adama's store that the aroma of her food could reach him, but far enough that most people pretended not to see him. His clothes were torn, his slippers mismatched, and yet he carried himself with quiet dignity. Whenever he came, Adama always had something prepared. Some days it was a bowl of hot beans and soft bread. Other times, porridge laced with dry fish and oil. There were days when all she had left was one final plate meant for her and Zainab, but she would still walk it over to him. "Are you sure about this?" he would ask gently, his voice soft but firm, watching her with eyes that had seen too much. Adama would smile, placing the bowl in his lap. "I know they do am because I get. I dey do am because I know wetin hunger feel like." She would sit with him for a minute or two, ask if he's needed anything. Some days he would say nothing. Other times he would recite poetry or drop strange bits of wisdom, but they understood each other in silence. Zainab, watching from the store, never complained. She knew it was their routine, that her mother would always give even when it hurt, but Adama fed him daily. No words, no questions. Beans and rice, sometimes porridge beans when she could get enough palm oil, and on the worst days, pap and akara, especially when market wasn't moving. Then one day everything exploded. It started with a fight. A new food vendor, loud and flashy, had set up across the road. Her name was Candy. She sold overpriced spaghetti with falsely packaging and extra loud speakers, blasting Tiwa Savage. Business slowed for Adama. Then Candy crossed the line. She insulted Uncle One Leg, loudly calling him a curse to business. Adama uncharacteristically stood and shouted back in front of a full crowd, "You feed empty people with music and vibes. I feed souls." That day, a fight broke out. Candy threw stew. Adama slapped her with a hot ladle. A small riot started. Someone posted it on TikTok. Anima Shanu vs. Slay Queen Vendor. Abuja Wahala. It went viral. That night, Adama's store was broken into. Her pot was stolen, her coolers trashed. On the wall, scrawled in pepper sauce. No more free food. Poverty is contagious. Zainab cried. Adama didn't. She swept the ashes, boiled water, and said nothing. That same evening, she still found a way to deliver a small bowl of pap and akara to Uncle One Leg. He looked at her with one good eye. The world doesn't deserve you. She smiled bitterly, but I still live in it. The next afternoon, Uncle One Leg was not found in his usual spot around 3 p.m. Every afternoon, just like that, he had never missed a single working day. With being in that spot, so what happened today? She asked herself. Why is he not here? 30 minutes later, she went to the junction to ask some Okada men. Please, have you by any chance seen Uncle One Leg? She asked. Some ignored her while some answered her, saying they didn't see him. She waited, stared at the road, stirred her pot slower than usual. Maybe he just late, she muttered. But even Zainab could see the worry written on her mother's face. People whispered, maybe EFCC catch him, or maybe he finally buy. Adama didn't believe either. She searched for weeks, from one abandoned building of hospital alleys, police station, to the other, but nothing. She returned to her almost collapsed store, and that's when she saw it, a white envelope, clean, untouched, and tucked under one of her pots. On it was her name. Inside, a hotel key card, and one line handwritten in looping ink. Room 706, Transcorp Hilton Hotel, 7 p.m. Come alone. She held it like a live grenade. Someone had been watching, and the game had just begun. The letter sat in her pocket like a curse. Adama spent the entire day trying to shake off the fear that clung to it. Her hands moved on autopilot, washing rice, frying akara, pouring pap, but her heart wasn't in it. Customers noticed. Some didn't come at all. Others whispered when they thought she wasn't listening. You see, say na her way they fight that fine girl last week. If it be say all this her free food matter na jazz. After them burn her store, na only juju fit still keep her here standing. She tried to ignore them, but the noise crept under her skin. Not even Zainab's wisecracks could lift the weight. By 4 p.m., her fingers shook. Too much to hold the spoon steady. She packed up early. Zainab, sensing something deeper than usual, didn't protest. Back at home, she bathed quickly, scrubbed harder than she needed to. Then she stared at her tiny wardrobe. She had nothing fancy, only 3 wrappers, 2 headwear gowns, and 1 pair of black shoes that pinched her feet. She settled for the blue Ankara gown with faded sunflowers and tied a scarf low over her forehead. Zainab sat cross-legged on the mattress, watching. Where you dey go, Mama? Adama kissed her forehead. Somewhere wey dey important. You go see Uncle One Leg. Adama didn't answer. The Transcorp Hilton Hotel stood like a different world. Glass windows sparkled. Valets stood in clean uniforms. Cars gleamed like mirrors. The air smelled of money and lavender. Adama stood outside for 5 full minutes before entering. Her chest felt like a drum. Her hands were sweating. The receptionist looked her up and down but said nothing when she held up the key card. Room 709, she said. Take the lift on the right. The ride up was slow. Her heart raced with every floor it passed. When she reached 709, her fingers hovered over the handle for a long time. She took one deep breath, then another, then turned the handle. The room was dimly lit, quiet. It smelled like polished wood and something faintly herbal. And there he was, sitting in a grand leather chair by the window, wearing a dark blue agbada with gold embroidery, one leg propped on a cushion, the other missing. Uncle One Leg. But this wasn't the beggar under the mango tree. This was a man of wealth, of dignity, and of secrets. Adama's legs went weak. You, she whispered. He smiled. Me. You tricked me. You lied, I observed. Adama took a shaky step back. What is this? Uncle One Leg nodded to the seat across from him. Please, sit. Let me explain. She hesitated, then sat back stiff. I am not a beggar. My name is Dr. Stephen Adewole. Most people know me as Uncle One Leg. I used to be a real estate magnate until I lost everything. My leg, my wife, and my purpose. After that, I disappeared from the world for 5 years. I lived like a ghost. He poured a glass of water and slid it towards her. And then one day, I realized if people saw me as broken, I could see them more clearly too. No one hides from a cripple. They show you who they really are. Adama blinked. So all this time, you were watching us? He nodded. Testing humanity. Every year, I become invincible to see who still has eyes for the unseen. Most people fail. They give when cameras are near or when there's something to gain. But you? He leaned forward. You gave from your pain. You fed me when your own child was hungry. You defended me when others laughed. You are exactly the kind of person who deserves more. Adama swallowed hard. I didn't do this for a reward. I know, he said softly. That is why you are here. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. This is a deed. A space in the new Gudu Market Plaza. Custom-built food store. Kitchenware, staff, inventory, all yours. Paid in full. Adama's jaw dropped. He continued, there's more. I've set up a monthly grant for your daughter's schooling, for your rent, for expansion, if you wish. She stared at him. Why? She asked. He smiled. Because someone like you, Adama, shouldn't have to choose between goodness and survival. She broke down. Right there. Cried like a child. Years of being mocked, betrayed, dismissed, melted in hot, grateful tears. When she looked up, Uncle One Leg was holding out a clean white handkerchief. For the first time, he said, take without giving. Just this once. And she did. The next morning, Adama awoke before dawn. But this time not to light a coal stove or to stretch her aching legs for another day of struggle. She sat up in silence, staring at the folded documents Dr. Stephen had given her. The room was still dark, the streets outside barely stirring, but her entire life had just shifted beneath her feet. She didn't know how to tell Zainab. She tiptoed into the main room, watching her daughter sleep, head tilted back, mouth slightly opened, arms wrapped around an empty butter container she used to keep coins. Adama touched her cheeks. Wake up, pikin. Today no be like yesterday. Hours later, they stood in front of the Gudu Market Plaza. It was unlike anything Adama had imagined. Newly painted walls in clean cream and yellow, tall glass doors, tiled floors, electric fans spinning above every unit. Her name was written in bold gold letters on one of the signs, God's Time Kitchen, Adama's table. A manager greeted her like royalty. A woman in black trousers handed her keys. Another staff member bowed slightly, saying, you have 15 staff, all trained, ready to serve. Adama just blinked. She walked through the kitchen. There were 6 stoves, 3 fridges, stainless steel counters, real plates. She ran her hand over one. Now here I go cook beans, she asked. No one in particular. Yes, ma, came the response. Zainab grabbed her mother's wrapper tightly. Mama, this place smells like air freshener. You sure say we'll not go wake up inside dream? Adama laughed, a deep laugh she hadn't known she was carrying. No be dream, na reward. Dr. Stephen, or Uncle One Leg, showed up around noon, wheeled in by his assistant. The room fell silent as he entered. He greeted everyone with a nod, then rolled up to Adama. Do you accept it? Adama wiped her hands. I accept, but only if I can use it to feed more people who were like me. He smiled. That's exactly why it's yours. She leaned down beside him. You didn't have to do all this. No, but I needed to, he said. I spent my whole life building things that made money. Now I want to build people who make meaning. Within a week, Adama's table opened to the public. Her old customers from Maitama Junction came first. Bike men, hawkers, shoe shiners, the ones who used to pay 200 naira for beans, now sat at clean tables, served on real plates. Adama still charged, but the poor knew if you had nothing, you still wouldn't go hungry. Her store became more than a food stop. It became a heaven. She created a board with a sliding pin system. Eat now, pay later. First meal free. Mothers with babies, priority line. She launched a program where any young girl abandoned by family could learn to cook and earn a stipend. She called it Zainab's Spoon. The vendors who used to mock her, they came quietly, some out of curiosity, some out of guilt. Candy came too. At first, Adama thought about turning her away, but she didn't. She handed her a tray. If you're ready to serve, you can start here. We still dey fry akara. Dr. Stephen Adewale watched from a distance. A man who had once believed that pain had ruined his soul now found healing in someone else's resilience. One day, he sat with Zainab outside the market. You know your mother is a miracle, right? Zainab nodded. I know. But she's stubborn like two goats. He chuckled. Good. Let her never change. Weeks passed, and then one day, Adama returned to the old mango tree at Maitama Junction. She placed a one plate of porridge beans, fried plantain, and zobo under the same tree where Uncle One Leg once sat. She whispered, for the next one, so they know Anima Shanu still lives here, and walked away. Months passed, but the flame in Adama's heart only burned brighter. What began as a single act of compassion and kindness at a roadside stall had bloomed into something larger than she ever dreamed. Adama's table had become more than a business, it was a mansion. Each week, she sat at the corner table near the window with a notebook and 2 pens, one for ideas, one for prayers. She started every morning the same way. 1 pot of beans for paying customers, 1 pot for anyone who walked in empty-handed. Her staff called her Madam, but she insisted on being called Auntie Adama. Her apron still smelled of crayfish and red oil. Her hands still stirred with the same rhythm from the old junction days, but her eyes carried the knowing of someone who had stood on both sides of lack. One Tuesday morning, a documentary crew showed up. They had heard whispers, a woman feeding the poor without shame, running a successful kitchen that didn't chase profits but purpose. Adama didn't speak much during the interview, but her food did. She served them her porridge beans, same as always, no plating finesse, no garnish, just love. When they asked her why she kept doing it even after she became successful, she simply said, because once upon a time, someone ate my kindness and didn't forget it. Zainab grew taller, louder, and smarter. She now handled the register and helped train new girls who joined the Zainab Spoon program. She created the meal tags like kindness kills hunger and eat and pay gracefully. She also made her mother laugh again, the real belly deep kind of laughter that left tears in your eyes. You know, say, if I never born you, maybe you go be politician, Adama once said. Zainab grinned. No, Mama, I go be chef like you, but with more pepper. One day, Adama received another envelope, not from Dr. Stephen, from the mayor of Abuja. She had been nominated for a National Merit for Community Development, an award meant for those who built without bricks. Her first reaction, to laugh. Her second, to cry. She didn't attend the ceremony. She sent Zainab. When asked why, she said, let the next generation carry the applause. I've already heard my thanks. One rainy evening after closing, Adama walked back to the mango tree in Maitama. The traffic lights blinked. The air was thick with diesel and thunder. No one else was around. She placed a plate on the ground, porridged beans, fried plantain, and a cup of zobo. She bent down slowly, adjusted the spoon, and whispered, I still dey give. You showed me what I carry. I am still carrying it. As she turned to go, A boy with torn slippers and swollen eyes appeared from the shadows. He stared at the plate, then at her. She nodded. "Not for you." He hesitated, then sat and began to eat. Spoon slow, eyes wide. Adama didn't wait to be thanked. She just walked away, soaked in the rain. Apron tight, because now everyone knew Anima Shanu still lived, and she was far from done.